Good day, YouTube. What's going on, everybody? God bless. Hope everybody's doing well. If you follow me on Instagram, it's Calvin Kirby on Instagram. Not too hard to find. So, we have law enforcement that's out of control. We have government that's out of control and corrupt. Both of them are corrupt. Politicians are corrupt. All these different people in these positions of power are corrupt. Like one of my favorite channels says, absolute power corrupts. And power corrupts absolutely. So, that is very true. You had law enforcement that is out arresting people just because. You have different situations popping up where it's showing that there is so many freaking lawsuits against law enforcement right now because they're violating people's rights and freedom. They're violating constitutional rights. They're violating laws. You have law enforcement getting caught dirty and they're getting arrested and they're killing people, executing people, or they're beating people, or they're doing whatever, and they're getting arrested. You have chief of police and sheriff's departments, sheriffs themselves, that are violating rights and freedoms. You have them that they are so willing to violate people's rights and freedom that they hate the constitutional rights and freedom. They hate the Second Amendment. They hate the First Amendment, especially the right to freedom of press. Your right to hold government accountable and hold grievances, and also to record law enforcement. It's simple. It's funny. This simple little thing right here, called a camera phone or smartphone, can scare the daylights out of a police officer because they may be caught saying something that's not right or blowing off and end their career. Well, that's not my problem. That's yours. You should be able to hold your tongue and be accountable to yourself. See, it's not my problem that you're a tyrannical thug, a treasonous thug that will violate people's rights and freedom on a whim just because they called you a tyrant. See, it's not my problem that you have allowed your head and your authority to go to your head. See, you don't have authority over us unless we are committing a crime. So actuality, it's not my problem. If you violate the laws, if you violate rights, if you act like a thug, you beat somebody, you tase somebody, you beat up an old 70-year-old woman, law enforcement, that's your problem. Because we're going to hold you accountable. See, what you do will come to light. And here's the beautiful part about it. This is how we hold you accountable. Cameras, phones, spy cameras that are in crosses, spy cameras that are in dice, spy cameras hidden everywhere. You never know where those cameras are going to be. See, that's the beautiful thing about technology these days. See, we citizens can get cameras and put them everywhere. You never know where cameras are going to be. You never know if you're going to be caught on camera. And you better hold yourself accountable. Just because that camera might be there. I think every citizen in the United States needs to put cameras out. Security cameras on the house. Security cameras on your car. Security cameras on yourself. Body-worn cameras or even spy cameras hidden. Cameras on glasses, little cameras hidden in glasses. I used to have a pair. There's so many hidden cameras you can get. And if you want to hold government accountable, that's what you do. You get spy cameras. Get cameras, because it's your right as freedom of press. Get those cameras. Project Veritas does it all the time. They use spy cameras to pick up all this corruption. Well, you need to do it too. As citizens, that's your right. Freedom of press. And here's another thing. You don't have to answer their questions. You don't have to comply. See, law enforcement will tell you that it's just easier to comply. Yes, it's easier to comply and give up your rights. And give up those freedoms. See, for far too long, we've just been complying and going along with the system. Okay, whatever. And this American dream is a fairy tale dream. See, they get you so far in debt that they own you. You are a slave to the system now because you are so far in debt. So, actuality, this is their plan. They're going to break you. They're going to enslave you. They're going to push all this fake BS on your head. You know, pronouns and everything else. All this fake junk that they're pushing. They're pushing it on you. The weak people will go along with it. The strong people will stand up against it. See, if you're one of these Republicans that says, well, it's just easier to comply, or a conservative that says it's easier to comply with the blue line, you're right. But that makes you a coward because you're not standing up against that. That makes you a coward because you're not willing to stand up and defend constitutional rights for all Americans against this tyrannical government. You're not willing to stand up and look at law enforcement and say, no more. Period. We will hold you accountable. We'll file lawsuits, file complaints, file Freedom of Information Act, file all this stuff and do all this stuff to hold you accountable. Hold grievances against you. We will use the First Amendment to the max and we will hold you accountable. See, if you're one of these conservatives or whatever that just says, hey, yeah, back the blue line. Well, I say back the blue line until it happens to you. Till you get your crap kicked out of you, get tased for no reason, get falsely arrested, get all this other stuff, and then you don't even understand your rights, and you end up putting yourself in jail for 5 or 10 years because you're fighting law enforcement. To come to find out it's a fake charge. It's a false charge. But it's easier to comply, isn't it? Oh, yes, it is. It's easier to comply. No, it's not. It's not easier to comply. See, your freedom being taken away and stripped away from you is not easy. That's not the easy way to go. Because eventually that is going to turn into a long, hard road that you're going to have to fight back from. It would have been easier to say, I don't answer questions. I don't consent to any searches or seizures. I don't follow tyrannical government's orders, unlawful orders. I follow the Constitution. If you ain't got reasonable, articulable suspicion or probable cause of what crime I committed, then I'm going to go. See, we need to start turnabout is fair play. We need to turn it back to them. Tell me why you pulled me over. Not this, I'll tell you in a minute. No, you tell me now. Law enforcement, you tell me now. Why did you pull me over? Why? Not 20 minutes from now, not falsely arresting and beating somebody up on private property because they're doing a yard inspection because their boss told them to. And then come to find out, the sergeants and lieutenants show up and say, we don't have nothing, so let them go. But yet she's over there hyperventilating and throwing up and panicking and everything. And yet you slammed her against the car and yanked her out of the car and did all this stuff that's illegal. And then you try to do a cover-up. Law enforcement tries to cover up their crimes all the time. That's what Freedom of Information Act is all about. You can get all the information about their interaction with you. The body cams, the call, whatever. See, you got to learn Freedom of Information Act. Learn how to use it. Learn how to use your rights. Learn how to use your freedom. I hope America wakes up soon. I hope they stand up soon. Stand together. Shares information together between all communities of civilians and citizens. Because if the civilians and citizens stand up together, no matter what race you are, you stand together and you start sharing that information, and you start sharing information, that's how we take the power of the people back. We start sharing the videos that are showing the actual truth of the encounter, not cut and clip either to make it better for YouTube. You show the whole video. See, government redacts everything anyways. When you go to get stuff, they always redacting their information because they don't want certain information out there, and they don't want whatever. They don't want certain officers out there, and they say, oh, you can't take pictures of undercover cars. Then hide those undercover cars. If you don't want us taking pictures of them, put them up somewhere. The big old SWAT vehicles, you don't want us taking pictures of them, well, put them up. If they're out in public, we have a right to take pictures of them. You know, law enforcement needs to learn constitutional rights. They need to learn the laws of this land. Not the laws that they make up. Not the laws that they just put a slap on. Slap everybody with that law. No. And if they're harassing and collecting and doing retaliation, they need to be fired. I'm telling you, man, too many retaliation stops, false stops, too much waste of our court times are wasted on false allegations from police officers. Or police officers calling in and making a false report. They're making the false report just to get somebody pulled over. It happens. Wake up, stand up, get united. Use your constitutional rights, especially the First Amendment right, to hold them government thugs accountable. Do I support good law enforcement? Yes. Good law enforcement is going to say we don't have nothing. Let them go. Good law enforcement is going to stand up to bad law enforcement. Good law enforcement will arrest bad law enforcement. We don't have enough of that in America. We don't have all the good law enforcement officers are quitting or retiring. Good military people are quitting or retiring because they don't want to deal with this tyrannical government. That's the problem in America. God bless. Have a good day.